Hello, everybody. We made it. We're back. This is the Seattle Overload podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, retention rates. Don't click off the video, like the video, subscribe, comment. But there is a bit of a preamble because this is a live broadcast. And what we do is we wait for people to join and come in, especially because we're often later than we say we're going to be when we do go live. So, if the preamble isn't for you, you can check out the podcast. You can download it on your podcast app. Just search Seattle Overload. And while you're at it, drop a 5-star review, subscribe or follow, or however your podcast app works. But for now, Griff, preamble.
So you guys will remember last time I saw a cougar in the woods, right? So I have a little bit of an update there. It left like a sack of organs on the ground, and those organs went untouched for like 2 days and like another day, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks and another day. So what is that? 15 days. And then on the 15th or 16th day, I came back to all of it being gone, and then there was a bunch of what I later found out was bear poop. So the bears came for it, and that was as of last Saturday.
Yummy.
And then, so if you did, or actually last, no, why did I say last Saturday?
How did you find out it was bear poo? Did you?
I Googled it.
Right.
I was like cougar scat, bear scat, coyote scat, but it was so much of it, it had to have been a bear anyway, like ginormous piles. But then anyway, so I'm on a hike right before, that's part of why we're late. I was on a hike coming down the mountain, and then I saw a big black bear tearing through the woods, like just hauling. This thing was like, I mean, cowardly. Like it heard my footsteps and sprinted away right away. But this guy was moving. So that was very cool. And I see black bears back there all the time in the spring and summer.
So remind me, is a black bear good news?
Yeah, but black bears don't do anything.
Oh, right.
I mean, they'll see you and either walk away or run away. They're not aggressive toward humans. Every once in a while, there's a black bear mauling, but it's like a very, very unique circumstance where like they're really used to humans, like in suburban settings, and then a human does something stupid to them and then they retaliate. But if you see a bear in the woods, they have no reason to be aggressive. They're just like, oh, it's a human. They'll walk away. But this guy, like my footsteps was enough, like the cougar, to make him sprint away as fast as he could. Then he jumped over like a root ball, where when a tree falls and you can see the roots like perpendicular to the ground, and it makes like a big like fan like shape, like a peacock kind of, but they're like 8 to 10 feet tall because it's like a semicircle, right, sticking out of the ground. And he like climbed up on the root ball and hopped over it like with one jump. It was crazy. Like one jump onto the root ball, then another jump over it. Anyway,
that is crazy.
5-tech for sure.
The only local wildlife I get here is rather bedraggled looking and disheveled foxes.
That's cool that you guys still have foxes up there. I looked that up recently. If bears were ever native to the British Isles, and they were, but you guys hunted them to extinction like 600 years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the British,
or
does it?
actually even earlier, way earlier than that, like back to antiquity, I think, actually.
Yes, that would make sense. The other thing is rats. So
you guys got rats.
There was, talking of like entrails and that's good stuff, I saw a rat like the size of like a size 10 shoe.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get big.
And large, wider, a massive rat, really big rat. But R.I.P. rat in peace, because it was no more. Something had got it. I imagine it was probably a cat.
Could have been a cat. Could have been an eagle.
We don't have eagles. We have buzzards.
But they're like vultures, though. They're not birds of prey, right?
Buzzards? Yeah. We have red kites, though. Red kites are... I think a buzzard is a bird of prey.
Whoa, a red kite. Is that a type of...
Type of kite.
I've never heard of that term before.
Yeah, you should. It's a very interesting bird. Like it's cool seeing it fly. It's massive as well. They have
That's
wonderful
awesome.
wings and a nice tail. I mean, it's not your American eagle, but like,
Sure. I mean, we got so. Okay, first of all, let me correct myself. Buzzards are birds of prey. I'm wrong.
yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Okay. But
But
Maddie, I don't need you to
sometimes
tell
you
me that I'm wrong.
sound
The internet can
often
tell me
you
I'm wrong.
sound so confident, and you're also a lot older than me,
Yeah.
so I kind of defer to, you know, I assume
My
or I give you the
seniority.
benefit of the doubt, I should say. Yeah,
Or do you
you
think maybe you're giving me the benefit of the doubt because we're both Aries and there's that Aries connection?
right because
Anyway,
that's so
I
Aries.
look, I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I was way wrong on the buzzard thing, and I apologize for that. I can admit that
That's
I was
very
wrong.
big of you.
I'm C Mike Spin Move, and I was wrong. Now, speaking of birds of prey, though, literally, this reminded me. Literally 5 hours ago, there was a red-tailed hawk in my backyard destroying a sparrow, absolutely murdering this thing on a bush.
Why?
Um,
Bird on bird crime.
I mean, they hunt smaller birds, and there's still the feathers in there. Um, that's pretty cool. Anyway, nature isn't nature wild? I'm so
Like that
glad
video of those I mean it wasn't murder, but it was assault. Those dogs going at it.
that was just some good old like getting reps in. That was like sled work.
Yeah, that was like practice.
A
Kind of
dog,
walk
too.
through kind of tempo, fitting up before the game. That was amazing. If you haven't seen that, Twitter. It was basically two
Um,
gapping as Griff said.
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say something really, really compelling, and then I forgot.
Oh man, it must have been compelling.
Yeah, it would have been so good.
I'm sure.
It might have boosted viewership. Anyway, oh, Jared Kelnick hit a double again. He is for real right now, man. That's
I told
insane.
people. I
We
told
did. We
people
should have listened.
Kelnick and the the switch, that thing. They
Yeah,
switched the switch.
the shift.
Ah, there you go.
Think
Shift
of the shift as like
switch.
flooding the coverage against trips.
Yeah, honestly, it's soft that they got rid of that.
Yeah, but it's very good for
Kelnick.
people that own shares of Jared Kelnick.
Or as I call him, Kellenich.
Kelnick. Now, see, I've always thought it's 3 syllables, Kellenick, but apparently it's Kelnick.
Yeah.
Maybe
Very
that's wrong.
American.
Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm being confident again on something I know nothing about. But one of my
No.
friends told me that.
Surely not. Wrong
And
twice in a podcast.
I trust. Yeah, that would be a first.
In the preamble. Right.
We're like tweener podcasters in that we can't find a lane. Just like the tweeners we're about to talk about. Hit it, Maddie.
No, hold on. Hold on.
I just gave you a perfect segue.
Yeah. But for me to be a tweener, like I'm 5'10", which is above average height.
Well, it's a metaphor. It's not literal.
No, but I want to take it literally. It is like people said Puna Ford could be a tweener coming out, right?
What was he in between, though? Because he was just viewed as a nose tackle or one technique.
Yeah, it wasn't really in between. It was more, is he just too small
Is he
and
viable
short
at
to
all?
play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out he is.
But like you're 6'1", right? Do you want that out there?
I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
That's
so
fine.
You're a tweener.
6'1" is an odd height for football.
It is.
Or
You're
at
a
least at
tweener.
defensive line.
Now I'm not saying 5'10" is a great height, but it is like
Well, you can
it's
play
not
running
between
back at
anything.
5'10".
Yeah, it's not between.
You can totally be a short king and be a really good football player. There's
100%.
absolutely a role for
and
you.
obviously, there's still hope for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to put on about 60, 80 pounds of rock hard muscle and power clean a good 300 pounds and you'll be in there.
And there are ways that is possible,
Sure.
Trainers, good diet.
If Rasheem Green did
sleeping.
steroids, he would actually be JJ Watt.
Okay, there we go. Right, let's get into the podcast.
If
Are you
Jared
ready?
Kelnick did steroids, he'd be Barry Bonds.
Now that the shift is gone, nailed it. Okay, let's do the intro. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griffin and I are going to be delving in to the 2023 NFL Draft Tweeners. We're going to explore what that means, how these defensive linemen, there's a hint, fit on the Seattle Seahawks, whether Seattle should take any of them, and, how good they are. Griff, what is a tweener?
A tweener is someone who you don't know if they're versatile or if they're just not good at anything. So the definition changes now because now that they're a 3-4 base scheme, it's harder to accommodate the skill sets where basically you don't know, are they, because it's so in the past it was Leo type, the 255 explosive guys, and you had the big end type, the 275-pound guys, and then you could even get 290-pound guys playing 5 technique for you, and there are different brands of big end that they had, but now it's you pretty much have to have the 290 guys. 285 is like the cusp, right? Because you're trying to, if you could find a 275 guy in the past to be your big end, you probably would only play them at 3 technique, 4 in a pinch, and they would just be a heavier 5 technique. And by heavier, I don't mean literal weight. I mean like tighter to the tackle, a little more stout, but you wouldn't really ask them to operate like a de facto defensive tackle. Now, because you're a bear team or sometimes a tight team, you're pinching down the front permanently now. Now that guy is like 90% of his snaps, or maybe 85% of his snaps are either over or inside the tackle. That guy pretty much has to be defensive tackle now. So on the spectrum of big end types, of which used to be, again, you could accommodate a wide range of players. Now you're closer to the defensive tackle side now. So this whole draft is frustrating because they can't include all of these guys the way that you always wanted to. So they kind of have to pick and choose. Now, as you approach the second and third round, you probably don't have to worry about as much. But the first round, especially 5th overall, this guy, if he hits, as in he's worthy of playing all the snaps, he needs to be the type of guy stylistically that can play all three downs in all of your stuff, all of your fronts. That doesn't mean you don't rotate him in and out just for load management sake, but like he needs to be a context proof, situation proof player, and all these guys are for how they scheme right now. They were in the old scheme, but they're not of what they've been doing the last 2-3 seasons.
Yeah. So when you talk about the 275-pound type, that would have been a Michael Bennett. The 290-pound type, that's a Red Bryant. And then the two kind of 50-pound type, Frank Clark, kind of.
I mean, Clark was at one point, he was 270, and he looked like he was going to be a super explosive version of that his first season. And they had him drop weight, and then he kind of became a Leo in base and then an interior nickel rusher, and then just pure Leo in 2017 and on, because he dropped to like 260. So,
and I guess Darryl Taylor was kind of that. The way I see it basically is there's a lot more Leos and outside linebackers types getting on the field. Well, there's one more, and then you kind of need a bit more heavier guys in the middle if you're playing the nickel 2-4-5 front with the overlook. But if you're wanting to get back into base, there may be room for that kind of 275-pound guy, given that Bear puts him in one-on-one situations. Or there may be room if they're going to, in base, run a 5 technique guy in like an under kind of look, like Red Bryant used to do and Outwards has done in the past 2 years. There may be room for a kind of 270-pound dude who then in nickel pass rush situations can play the 3-tech, which is what Draymond Jones's role may well be this coming season, even though he struggles against combination blocks. So 5-tech could be up and down with that experience, depending on whether teams work out how to double him in the run game. So the tweener is in the new defense we're talking about a bigger defensive lineman, but one who they're not an outside linebacker. Like, they're too large for that, and stylistically they're not that. But they're not a defensive tackle. They're not a kind of big, heavy 3 technique or nose tackle. You don't want them playing inside all the time. And so I think there's still room for the scheme to accommodate that. It's just not as, from 2022 at least, there's not as many fronts where there's room for that. But, if there's a guy who they want to fit in there, it could happen. I just think that the types are more purely, the types are clearer. Like, they are, they're more in a certain hole. There's less of a hybrid nature to the fronts that they run or ran in 2022.
Right. And the other thing is, say you really like a guy, and say you even determine that, yeah, he can play inside. Like, he's on the lighter side, right? Say he's another Draymond, but if you have redundancy there, and say he's good enough to merit wanting to play him a lot, but 285 is still 285, even if you play above your weight. Do you really want 2 guys that are 285 on the line at the same time, and you feel compelled to play them at the same time because they're so good? But the weight difference is going to catch up to you at some point, especially against 12 personnel or teams that can just really move bodies, under center heavy teams. Even if you had Michael Bennett and Draymond Jones in there, surrounding, say, Al Woods for the sake of discussion, that's still going to be too light. And as good as Michael Bennett was against the run, styles make fights, right? And so you're eventually it's going to catch up to you. You're going to get blown off the ball, so the whole tweener type conversation is really difficult because they already have one on the roster that they want to play a lot. I don't know if they can really warrant taking a guy in the first round, given that, because a first round player you clearly want to play a lot. I just feel better about if it's a second or third round guy, of which could still be a really high value player for you, but you don't feel pressed to put them in every situation. You don't try to make fetch happen, so to speak. So you can play them as needed, rotate them in and out, because Draymond still is only going to play probably 700 snaps, maybe 800, and then the other thing is, like you said, when you go to the 2-4-5, hey, if this guy can actually give you some edge rush, then that helps beef up, because the whole point of the 2-4-5 nickel even over G front, all the same thing, is edge rush, right? So if that guy can still give you edge rush and be one of the edges in that context, then he's raising the floor of the run defense of that front. And then that's where you're talking about getting the best of both worlds, which is the whole point, is can you defend the run from a pass rush oriented front and stay in too high? Then, like, that's complete defense, but you can only do that if you have obscene talent. So like even the 49ers, when they come out and they're nickel even front, one, they're a little bit more beef on the edge, but those guys can still rush the passer. Like Nick Bosa's 265, Nwosu's 250, 255, right? But they spin that safety down a lot. They run a lot of fire zones, so they're playing gapped out. So at least it's easier to marry the run and pass for them defensively. So these are all the factors. I mean, we're going to get into the players. But I don't know if they need to try to force a pick, with the exception of Tyree, if they really like Tyree, because he's really more on the pure edge side of things.
Yeah, and he's 271 pounds. He is that bigger guy.
He's more of a big Leo.
Yeah.
If to use the old scheme for reference, he's a big Leo more than he is a small big end, if that makes sense.
Yes, and we've spoke about him in a previous podcast. You'll be able to find that very easily. Where we like what he can bring, but he is that in the system he'd play outside linebacker, and then you'd have, like how Carlos Dunlap, and there's similarities between the two, like how Carlos Dunlap was a big Leo, and Pete Carroll's way of kind of phrasing the Leo thing was always, well, okay, the Leo can be this or that, but ultimately he's your best pass rusher, right? And so that was what Dunlap was. And what you'd get with Wilson, if being a big outside linebacker in the new system, is the same as what you had with Carlos Dunlap, in that there is a difficulty in them dropping into coverage. It looks awkward. It looks clunky. Okay, when Seattle did it with Dunlap, efficiency-wise, they actually performed better than I think a lot of people would realize, and as you highlighted at the time, Griff. But you just don't want to have to do it too often.
Still not ideal, yeah.
Yeah, even though the scheme requires you to do that for disguise purposes, you just wouldn't do it as often as you would with both Nwosu and a Darryl Taylor, for instance, or a 35-year-old Bruce Irvin out there. They're both more able to drop. They're both more agile. Don't get me wrong, as we said at the time, Tyree Wilson has very impressive movement skills for his body composition, for his size. He can redirect very well coming downhill and without losing too much speed. But just in coverage, it's just clunky. He lacks the agility of a smaller guy. He also has a higher center of gravity. He's tall, he's big. It's just not a thing. But he is still a big outside linebacker, not a tweener type. He could become a guy who can work inside, possibly, but really it doesn't look like his game. And the technique is just not there. And honestly, he kind of needs to refine the outside linebacker stuff to accent his strengths currently now before, in my opinion, he can really start honing in on anything inside. There's a lot to clean up technique wise playing on the edge anyway. So while I wouldn't be adverse to the pick, it would not necessarily exclude Seattle from drafting one of the other tweeners in this class, even with what we've said about how their scheme perhaps is less accommodating of that, especially if they run more of the 2-4-5 again and the over G and all that stuff. But this draft has a number of tweeners or tweener types. Kind of speaks to how college football's gone with the kind of 3-4 elements in college football, mint fronts, tight fronts, just playing 3 down, even like the Iowa State kind of thing. 3-3-5 looks like what Kansas State did, TCU did. The basically guys who can play 1.5 gaps along, but they're just big on the edge to basically help you cheat math, get guys in coverage. With the game getting spread out, be able to cover down in other situations. And so this draft, actually, there's an argument you can make that the tweener types are actually more exciting than the outside linebacker class. And maybe we fall on the side that neither is that exciting. But for now, the guy who grasps all of the attention, Iowa's Lucas Van Ness. Now, he was known about because his bull rush pops off the tape. When he connects and he gets into a tackle and the tackle hasn't got hands on first and maybe he's not quite ready for it, he gets absolute powerful bull rush. He's dominant. He looks like elite play strength. And then, he was on the radar because of that. But then at the NFL Combine, he tested like an absolute maniac. 6'5", 272 pounds with 34-inch long arms and an 81 3/4-inch wingspan. He ran a 4.58 40-yard dash, with a 1.57 seconds 10-yard split, jumped 31 inches vertically, 9 foot 2 inches in the broad, which is fine. But then a 7.02 seconds 3-cone. And 17 reps on the bench press. But that agility testing with the crazy 40 and 10-yard split and, size, arm length is just nuts.
Yeah.
So, but Van Ness's tape, Griff, we weren't as enamored with.
He has a great foundation in that he's, leverage oriented. He has good technique in the run game. But as a pass rusher, he's raw. He's not very developed. Obviously, he has a great bull rush. The bull rush is real. The power is real. He doesn't have balance issues when bull rushing. It's just that because that's the only thing he has, really good tackles and guards will like trap him and like knock his arm down, maybe knock him off balance. But it's not like Collier, where Collier had a inherent balance issue. Van Ness has good leverage, and he can kind of, keep his center of gravity and stuff. So he has more of a foundation. He kind of has a snatch move. He kind of a snatch rip thing. I feel like, with his arm length, he could easily add in some, complementary moves off of the bull rush. I think he should always, like, the bull rush will always be foundational to his game. It's just, he's a huge question mark as a pass rusher. And I understand, like, defensive line is the position group to go for traits. If you're going to go for traits with anyone, at least go for traits early. Whereas maybe other positions, you kind of wait for the traits of guys that aren't very developed. You wait for day 2, day 3, right? But with defensive line, if they show anything, that's where you can do it. It's just, I feel like with their needs, that would be like forcing a pick with him. But yeah, we'll dive into the tape here. There's still plenty of things to like. Is this the Indiana game?
This is Ohio State, and I
Okay.
think it's worth looking at this because this is the sort of game where you talk about how tackles knock his arm down, and that the best, like, Ohio State, they have I'm completely blanking on the name. Anton Harrison, is that his name? No, that's the Oklahoma guy, isn't it? Paris Johnson. And DeJuan Jones, and those are like two
Yeah.
guys who are going to get drafted this year. Possibly not as first round picks, but like they're like legit tackle prospects. And Van Ness had some difficulties with them. And honestly, this was the game where I was like, I'm kind of out on him. So you can see him here on the left edge against DeJuan Jones. And it just shows the limitations to his rush plan, and also just when guys get hands on him, it's not as
the movement skills aren't there to like work outside. There are big clunky guys like him that are explosive and stuff, and they have like the grace and coordination to make a living out there, and he's just not there yet. Like, if he can't set up with a bull rush, he pretty much has no life on the edge as a pass rusher. That was something that I saw watching all of his games. Like, he's got no bag out there, like, and he doesn't even kind of have like the foundational like footwork to where if he develops some moves, like, he could blossom pretty quickly. Like, you kind of have to start from the ground up with him.
Yeah, well, here's an example of his bull rush actually working, because he gets the hand on first, right down he takes the chest of the tackle, and you can see like the raw power and what that is. You also see the lower body agility here, and the way like his hips, are just excellent pad level and that sort of thing. It's just, I actually was really impressed with how it's Paris Johnson, right? I was really impressed with how he recovered sort of in this game, came back to it, and ultimately won. Also, he played a fair bit inside, which again, like against Michigan, for instance, I was like, oh, this is interesting, because this is a guy who's playing in the kind of 2Y looks which Seattle ran last year and at 3-Tech, and not getting knocked over. But then, against the actual offensive line, which was doing bits, he really struggled, got chipped out of there on combos and stuff, which, like, not necessarily a surprise. I just, I thought maybe the Michigan game and the Indiana games, that he'd be able to do a bit more inside. And then I sort of realized, no, he is 272 pounds still. Like, he's more of like and then that's where you get into the kind of scheme fit thing of like, what's he actually going to be in Seattle? Like,
right. So it's 1st and 10 base personnel. Like, where is he playing? Can you put him? Can he be a 3-Tech? 1st and 10 bear 3-4?
Yeah, like, I don't think so. Like, I really don't think so. Here, this is not a good one-on-one edge threat.
So it's really easy to see, like, in the 2-4-5, whether, because the edges aren't dropping, he can put his hand in the dirt if he's more comfortable. It doesn't matter, right? He pretty clearly would beef up the run defense if he's an edge there, right? And then if it's like, say, second and medium, or even first and 10, 11 personnel shotgun, you probably put him on the edge a little bit. Because again, like, maybe Clint Hurt thinks he can help him develop counters and move off of his bull rush, so he can give you edge rush and give you run defense. And then like second and 12, he's playing 3 technique in that front, right? Try to give you some interior rush. And then third and long, third and medium, he's playing 3 technique, right? But it's the real question is, like, you cannot take him in the first round at all, not even at 5, but or forget about 5, but not even at 20, if you don't think he can't be a base player in your base defense. You don't take a guy in the first round without him being fitting into everything that you do, right? Now, granted, LJ Collier, who, he ended up playing okay in 2020 as a run defender, and they played bear that year. Now, there's some reps that you can find where against combination blocks, he's getting moved, like the front side of power.
Collier?
I think he got up to 290.
Yeah, he was big.
Yeah, but isn't yeah.
Well, the thing with Van Ness is he is young.
Again?
He was 271 at the combine. He got up to
271.
272. Right. The thing is, like, he turns 22 in the 6th month. That's June. And the upside's there. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, if you look at this rep, he gets jump set. It doesn't go well initially, but again, you can see the way he's able to corner. Like, there's glimpses at every so often of what his agility would allow to do. Sorry, the playback's slightly choppy. I don't know. It's never done that before.
Man, 270. Get out of here. It might be a no for me, dog. I don't know if I can do this. If they were playing the old scheme where they were playing a 4-3 over and under, and they only reduced when they needed to, sure, take him at 20 if they are obsessed with him, right? But he's just not a scheme fit, man. He's not versatile. He's a tweener. That's the problem. It's like the question, the operative question is this guy versatile, or is he a tweener? Does he have multiple positions, or is he positionless? And he might be positionless for what they are right now. Again, that doesn't mean that they think, well, he can carry 285 just fine. We'll have him eat some cheeseburgers, and then he can go be lots of things for us. And sure, if that's the plan, if they talk to him during the pre-draft process, like, how do you think you can handle all this? Like, he's strong as hell. Like, his strength to weight ratio is insane, right? It's just 270 is still 270, right? Like, he might play like a 280 pound guy at 270, great, but the 285 guys that make it work play like 300 pounders, right? Like Michael Bennett at 280 played like he was 290. Draymond at 285 plays like something north of pushing 300, right? That's how they make it work. But
yeah, I found this is like an illustrative rep. Like, he's playing so hard for knockback here that, like, a crease develops, which again, maybe maybe it's slightly nitpicky, but it's just an example of how this is like losing a rep to a tight end, and I don't know how the fit wise they're not in that good a situation. But like, he'll have to play on the edge as a run defender.
I think he's excited because he's thinking
tackle velocity.
He's thinking backside, outside zone, or mid zone. But the cutback this is mid zone, isn't it? It's not even.
Well, it's I don't know how split that is with the receiver going back, but yeah, mid zone, yeah.
And so it's into the boundary. He should be thinking cutback, honestly, because that's why I think that's why mid zone is so common, because you're running in, you have less space to the boundary, obviously. So if you speed up the cutback rule, the cutback read, then you're running into more space. So I don't know. Maybe that's just it.
He's obviously got athleticism, like, here to get up this quickly when
I remember
he's
that
falling on the ground and get to the quarterback coming up from the pocket. Like, CJ Stroud here thinks he's got a wide open lane, does not expect him to get up this quickly.
I mean, he. Oh, I was looking at the wrong player. Shoot.
Oh yeah, that's a nice rep from 13.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like 8, 9. I was like, if that was him, like, there's some, like,
then there's a different
traits, move. But yeah,
a little, what do you call that? Like a ghost, but like a double dip.
It's just like a inside chop dip.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Iowa has like 6 of these guys.
Yep. We could just change the number, and obviously there's slight stylistic differences, but
I do like Logan Lee as kind of like a
83,
no 85.
85, that's it.
He's a good run defender. He's kind of like on the Brandon Jackson, David King, DeMarcus Dobbs type thing.
Here's another kind of rough rep versus chip double, and this is the stuff in the league that they will expect him to play against. By the way, he'll have to play
Yeah,
like 4-3 ends.
this is garbage. And he's power stepping too. And what are his hands even doing here?
That's the thing. His hand placement's like, for a guy whose ball rush is his main thing, his hand placement in certain situations isn't.
So
and again, like
he has
technique can be taught up for draft prospects, right? Like,
absolutely, but so like he has no feel for his pressure key here. Is the other thing.
Doesn't know what he's doing.
So the pressure key being the guard. Well, no,
the tackle.
No, the tackle. Sorry, he just has. Yeah, that's the thing. He's not as, I don't know what the word is. I feel like it's more of an experience thing. I'm not going to say cerebral, but he doesn't understand blocking schemes, and that's why he's probably not a starter. That's why he didn't start for them. He's high effort, high motor traits guy.
The hand placement here as well, just off. Really wide.
That is a good power step though.
Very good power step.
And that he knows to get flat because he's not mirror stepping. It almost looks like a mirror step, but he understands the situation. He knows it's like inside zone indicators.
Yeah, good pad level. Yeah, it's like basically duo, isn't it, that they get?
But, or it's duo. Is that duo? Yeah, it's duo.
Very tight zone. It's short yardage.
Okay, either way. It's him understanding that it's a downhill A gap run, right? Anyway.
And then this is like, I just want to show how Paris Johnson kind of just won eventually against him. And sort of the examples of why he's going to come into difficulties in the league. Like, it will be a work in progress with him. So here he is on this edge, the left edge, and like I think he's just great feet from Johnson coming out, getting hands on him first, and he's playing like short. Now he's playing short, I guess, because he's trying to get the ball rush unlocked, but he never unlocks it, and then he tries to win to the inside as a recovery, but like Johnson square, like he just dominates him.
Yeah.
And I think this is realistically what a lot of his NFL reps look like, you know.
Yep.
Like there's not much wider you can align here in terms of trying to build up speed to get power.
Now he does get the Trevon Walker comp. The pass rusher, I get that because the traits are very similar, and like being raw and stuff is like he's like equally raw as a pass rusher as Trevon. But as a run defender, Trevon's floor is way higher. And Trevon was a early down player. So to me, like, he's just not even a first rounder to me, but people are talking about him in the top 10. That's just absurd to me. Which many people are. I just don't see it. Maybe it's because it speaks to, like, you know, how talentless the edge class is overall. But like you said, like, they're actually, this is a good like tweener or rather big edge, like classic 4-3 end draft. It's not a bad one. It's pretty solid there. It's just, it feels like there isn't a lot of talent there because of the guys that are really easy fits for the Seahawks and a lot of teams now that a lot of teams are bear teams now. These guys aren't the easiest of fits. So
yeah, let's find him. There's another good rush here against I think this is him bull rushing a guard. How did that happen? Oh yeah, here. Now this is, you know, the guard doesn't expect him to strike him down the neck like this. He's thinking he's gonna have a kick out kind of style block on the way they're full sliding their protection. Still, like, you know, when he's first to the chest, there's the power there. And this is almost like a wrong arm way of doing it, right? Almost denting the block on a full
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah. I mean, and it goes to show if you can catch a guy off there, if you catch a guy high, he will absolutely walk you into the quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, and he's got some reps where it's even like slow building power, like he's not firing off. He'll like engage and then
Little stutter.
start driving his feet and then walk them back. Like he doesn't just need to convert the power. He can tap into his power, out of at any point, if he's got the angle for it. So
Absolutely. Okay, and then final clip. Here we go. And there's on the right side or the left for us. Like I don't like again the running back is lower than him and so there is not that
I
same
feel like what this does is it shows that he's kind of an awkward mover in space.
despite the weird three cone being so elite tape over testing,
Yeah.
And again, an awkward mover in space, like a guy who's looking to kind of play straight and is almost like everything looks clunky. That is
No,
not an outside linebacker. That's not a guy who can play outside linebacker for Seattle. And we've already
right.
said how he can't play inside.
Yeah.
But like in terms of the fit, like it's highly questionable, especially for where he's supposedly going to go, which like I still don't really understand.
I mean, also though, credit to that running back though. That's a Travis
great.
Homer caliber
Awesome.
right there.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, finish. But yeah, that's Lucas Van Ness. So we wouldn't really take him. Not for the Seahawks anyway. I said I don't understand it. I understand it. It's just I wouldn't personally be.
All right,
I don't know how you just got to bet on the traits and coach him up. And I guess if you're the 49ers, say,
sure,
that's the sort of pick you'd make if they had a pick in the first round or the second round.
Right.
Is that kind of defense. Yeah, so like he could contribute for Seattle in the 2-4-5, right? Like come off the bench, be a dude who can add a different style of rush. It's just contribution wise that it just limits what you're able to do.
Right.
Okay. Next up, the old man, but the good man, Keon White from Georgia Tech. White is a 6-year senior. That means he turns 25 years old in January. He's one of the few people who are like us, born in the 90s. Let's go. But yeah, he went to Georgia Tech for his senior year. Before that was with Old Dominion. Testing wise, he is basically 6'5", 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. 285 pounds, 34-inch long arms, 80-inch wingspan. Jumped 34 inches vertically, 9'9" in the broad, and 30 reps on the bench press. At his pro day, he ran a 4.76 seconds 40-yard dash with a 1.69 seconds 10-yard split. Those are impressive numbers for his kind of body size. Like he is a legit, 285 pounds, which I think, Drift, you think is something that's being forgotten in this process.
Yeah. Again, like a lot of these guys, they have their college weight listed, and then what they run at the combine, like a lot of them are dropping weight. Like Karlaftis last year was supposedly 280, 275 maybe, and then he ran at like 260 at the combine. So he's in a totally different weight class now, and he's just a bigger edge. He's a legit edge, just on the bigger side. Keon is a legit 285 pounds, and he's a 285 pounds that can actually rush the edge. He can actually bend the edge, power the edge. And then because he's 285, I think there's some viability there to pinch down and actually be, a relatively high snap through technique. in a 5-man front. Like you wouldn't want him playing there on the inside in like a 2-4-5, or even like, the old, under over scheme. Even though the Sam's on the line of scrimmage, you'd rather have him be a legit 5 technique than on the 3 technique side, right? But like in a 5-man front where you've got 2-3 techniques, which alleviates the frequency of doubles, right? Or if there is a double, they don't stay on as long. I think he can play inside there. He does have a tendency to get high at times with his pad level. Again, he is 6'5", but I don't think that's a lack of flexibility. I think that only really shows up, and we have some examples, but I think that mostly only shows up when he's 2-gapping. He'll have to do some of that, when they have him play 4-eye and 4. But I think as a 3 technique where he's power stepping, 1-gapping, I don't think there's a leverage problem. He might be high, but he's establishing leverage often enough. I think he can be a complete player. I mean, really, essentially his usage would be very similar to Draymond, except that when you go to the 2-4-5, he can actually be one of the guys that can bend the edge for you, which is important because then that means he's helping you defend the run in that front and you improve. So he'd be like opposite Nwosu in those contexts, right? So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot here. The main drawback with him is that the dude is going to be 25 years old next January. That probably drops him a full 30, 32 spots in the draft of where he would go otherwise.
Yeah, immediately, like looking at the Georgia game and kind of the level of competition, is insightful. Like, okay, probably your best players aren't going to come against Georgia, and Georgia Tech really struggled in this game, like most teams against Georgia. But like here he is at the top of the screen. You can just see like the get off for a guy his size and like the first step. And okay, at the bottom of the screen they're running a game, so they're not quite as fast off the ball. But like he surprises the left tackle out here early in the game. Like, and it is like the ball coming out quickly.
Yeah.
But,
And like, I wouldn't call this a win, but he's still, it shows the traits that he's actually getting at the top of the arc about 9-10 yards. And he has the movement skills to kind of, crank around. Like, not ideally, he'd win the edge at, 6-7 yards and then crank around at 8 or 9 instead of 9 or 10, 9, 10, 11. But it's just, this is 285 doing what he's doing right there. Again, it's not an impressive rep, but it's an informative rep. And those same traits show up in his better reps later on in this game, and then also in other games of the season. So
absolutely. And the other thing about him is he's able to contribute on a variety of downs. So here he's playing on the right edge, and this is a play action win, I'd say, towards the end. The thing which really stands out about him is he loves to be able to, he can dip like in his upper body.
right,
He has like
he's
upper
flexible.
body flexibility to do that, which
He's
like
flexible and
again,
coordinated.
not typical. This is like a play action, so he's playing run first. He gets his hands on and there's drive. Like, look at him getting constant steps into the backfield, like connecting into the turf, and then the dip to get free eventually, like constantly fighting.
I mean, that's coordination and flexibility that the last guy that we just watched doesn't have. Straight up doesn't have it, and he's 15 pounds lighter than, I mean, maybe he played at 275, 280, but Keon is actually 285 here, a real 285.
Yeah, and maybe Stetson Bennett's able to hang in this pocket a tiny bit longer, and if he doesn't win like this,
Right. And not the most impressive rep. That's against a good left tackle, and traits are on display. So,
yep. Again, talking sort of movement skills. Here he is on the left of our picture, charging it inside zone away, and then redirecting to the quarterback. Like, there is not much speed lost here. These are big steps, well measured steps, towards this play, which, like, okay, it's not like a bend, but it's redirection, big steps and awareness, like.
right.
That point as well, like obviously he is big, so there is, and 34-inch arms, then they're not a joke. Like, there is length to make plays as well. So here we go. He's on the right of our picture here. And that's a super impressive one-arm tackle, squeezing down the line of scrimmage.
Because he's the C gap player. Like, he's not even two gapping. He just is able to just work his way in.
Yep, bigger. Like really, this should be the number 2 linebacker off the ball play up in that B gap, but he's able to kind of just take air out of stuff.
Right. And that is huge if you can envision that in the nickel over front, especially if you put him to the bubble with the nose to the 2 eye side. You can cheat the numbers just because he has the length and movement skills and play strength to just be able to work into that other gap, even though he's not technically 2 gapping. You're just kind of BSing it. You're just making plays. You're being a playmaker. So
absolutely.
And like this play is moving away from him. It's crazy that he gains a gap on a play moving away from him.
Yep. Here he is on the left. Again, kind of gaining stuff on plays away. Like, he should not be able to cross face like this. Reads the blocking scheme. This is canceling gaps. Impressive to recognize this, along with the ability to get involved.
I mean, I feel like the 49ers are going to end up taking him and just use him in all the ideal ways you'd use him in a 40 front, Yeah,
because what we're talking about here as well, like whatever Seattle does, and possibly this pick is done at 20. Maybe it's done slightly later, 37 is an option, maybe even later still. But we're talking about someone who isn't necessarily going to be a starter or, play the most snaps. But, what are they going to contribute like day one? How are they going to get on the field? And like White, there's a number of ways White can get on the field. Like, he can bring a different style of pass rush. He can bring run defense. Now, all of this is from the defensive end spot. We do have examples inside as well, where because he's a taller type, Griff, the pad level is like slightly a challenge for him, right? But like, he's able to be okay one-on-one.
Agreed. Yeah.
So here is and also as a rusher, there is ability to there's moves and there's a pass rush plan. I think there's semblance of that, which again, like for an older prospect, maybe you'd expect that, but like it's obvious that he's trying to put stuff together again against a good tackle. I mean, this is like very exciting. If the ball doesn't come out here, this this is like put this on the highlight tape,
Yeah, I mean, like he's got the first step and then like a stutter move, and then
balance.
So when the tackle engages him, that left tackle 59 is used to that contact that he makes kills it, like rides off a lot of guys. Keon's path is sustained.
Yeah, and look where he gets his arm into the tackle, and the tackles end up grasping his helmet. He thinks he's getting chest. He's like, oh, crap.
Yeah. And then he kind of loses his balance at the end, but that's a big boy he's dealing with. He regains it, which is impressive, though. The fact that he collects himself like that is crazy. And then he kind of corks it back in at the top of the rush. So again, that's 285 pounds moving like that. He doesn't look 285 because he's 6'5".
It looks nice from the sideline angle as well.
Yeah, so it's just he's an actual threat on the edge, and that's really exciting because then that means the flexibility with how you can use him, and then what that means for how flexible you can be with your fronts, what fronts you use and when. It's like, well, we need edge rush now. It's like, well, Keon can be on the edge, and like, oh, we got to pinch it down. Well, Keon can play 3 technique. You know what I mean? So,
yep. And also, he's a really fast guy for his size, and we've sort of shown that already. But this is a good example of, okay, you don't want him probably to drop into coverage too much, and he's in serious run pass conflict here at the top of the screen as the right kind of outside linebacker type. But what I want to focus on more is his recovery to this running back. So, like right now, he's not aware, and this is a tricky concept because the running back starts as the tailback. This is a beta. Georgia knew they were getting this look. But look at his right. This guy's had a full head of steam. He's got like 7 yards. Well, he started off here like 8 yards on him, but he's able to like catch up. And if he doesn't, his playing of the ball is poor. If he trusted himself and took a few extra steps, maybe he breaks this up or plays through the hands a bit more. Like that is not a slow dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be interested in what how fast that running back is, but like, and he does have to adjust back to the ball. But this is a guy who can move. For his size, what did I say that he tested? A 4.76 with a 1.69 10-yard split. So like not the best numbers, but it's not slow, and like the tape stuff is not not to be sniffed at.
Right.
It's not too choppy, is it, the playback?
No, that seems fine.
Okay, good. And then here's an example on the inside where we talked about his pad level getting a bit high. Here he is the 4-eye technique, left 4-eye. He will just get high. And again, this is a good offensive line, but it's not just that he's high in the upper body. It's more that his legs are so
Look at
long
his
that getting
hips.
them
Yeah.
up and down means it takes longer to get them up and down. So like here,
I almost feel like
step, his lateral step, his mirror step lacked power, right?
yeah. Like he can't. Yeah. I feel
Like,
like
look how high his butt is here.
right. I feel like for him to get lower, he'd have to take a wider mirror step so that his naturally there'd be more bend at the knee of like the play side knee, but then
and you get shoved out.
but then the problem then is that it takes longer to then get the foot up and down, and I don't know. With maybe technique improvement he can get there, but it's really not there as a 4-eye mirror stepping, two gapping.
Yeah, you more want him attacking as like on the outside shoulder of a dude, right? Taking that 6-inch step and hopefully being 1-on-1 so you can just knock someone back, right?
Right, which he has the traits for. And I think he
Yeah.
has the traits and weight to do that routinely. It's just he has to find himself in the right position for it.
Yeah, Georgia's defense is one of those where Georgia Tech's defense, one of those where they play a lot of 2-4-eye looks. Now, it remains to be seen what on earth Seattle was doing on their front this year, because they have one player over 300 pounds still. Draymond Jones's addition kind of hints at, well, at this point, I don't know what it hints at, but what we'd like it to hint at is that he'll be like the kind of big end type. So he'll play some 5 tech. He'll play in underlooks. He'll play some 3 tech in bear. And then maybe he'll play a touch of 4-eye, and then he'll play be a rush 3 tech, but maybe a bigger kind of end in the 2-4-5 over G look, where he can play to that B gap bubble, to the 2-eye nose tackle that Griff spoke about. So that Draymond Jones role is really the same kind of role that Keon White would occupy, just White slightly bigger. So and just very different. But like it would be cool to see. I think their skill sets would complement each other really well. And if that's that's an important role, asking a lot of Draymond Jones, and yeah, they paid him good money to do that, but having like another option on the roster able to do that. And Miles Adams is like a very kind of light alternative to that, right? Like, he could do that sort of stuff. I mean, he's one of the few guys on the roster, so it's easy to name him. But like, he's that kind of body composition in that kind of suits him. Definitely suits him better than asking him to play nose tackle. But yeah. So Keon White, super exciting. I think, like, again, not the most not the most astonishing podcast in that we're both like agreeing on a player again. And we're seeing the same kind of vision. But Yeah, the age is
What's
the thing, and
s-
like maybe
so
this is what a 25-year-old who has this kind of body type should look like, but like it's still
right,
cool.
right. So given that, what's the earliest you would take him then? Irrespective of who you took in front of him, which might cancel out the necessity for it. But what's the earliest you'd take him in a quote unquote vacuum?
Uh, 50's too high.
You think 50 is too high?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So basically, with your fourth pick is really when you'd start to consider it.
Yeah, like maybe you trade down. It's ideal, right? But like maybe you trade down from 20 to like 29, and then you pick up like a third rounder, and then that's Keon White.
Because do you think the league's gonna really drive him down their board because of the age?
I don't know either.
Looking at Michael Clemens last year, who had maybe almost not quite as impressive a tape as to me as Keon White, but
Different.
Clement, yeah, the different players, but Clemens still had some good tape. He was the exact same age. He's 25 right now. He actually had some good games for New York this past year. So he was a fourth round pick. And also, Keon White is supposedly interviewing really well too. So you don't know how much teams
Yeah, and
bring.
like don't get it wrong. It sucks for him. Like the reason that he's this old isn't necessarily his fault. Fault. But like Old
Well, he's had
Dominion
a
essentially can't.
bizarre college career. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like so Old Dominion cancelled their college season in 2020 due to the pandemic. So he entered the transfer portal and then signed with Georgia Tech after that season. Then he got injured playing basketball, which maybe that explains the coordination drift.
Yeah, for real. But then,
Um,
so you've got COVID, then you've got injury, and that doesn't even mention the fact that he started off at Old Dominion as a tight end. He wasn't even playing defensive line till his second year.
yeah, yeah, he came out
So
as
he's
a
had
tight
a
end.
so he's had a very bizarre college career, and that it's all those things contribute to why he's 24. Now, his junior year, I watched a couple of games, and all the same traits are there. He just maybe didn't quite put it all together, but he was
And level of
still
competition.
level of competition.
Yeah.
Um,
And like, how did he
anyway,
look at the Senior Bowl? Because not to put you on the spot, but you were the D line guy, and you didn't like rave about this guy called Keon White.
yeah, you're right. I didn't really recall him as much.
I went back and watched it, and he had the same kind of things. Like he was very good at edge setting, had a great anchor. You know, that shows up. In the pass rush stuff, like it's very limited opportunities. Like you get 1 or 2 reps, but like he showed he could run around the edge. Um, but then like when he moved inside, the pad level was still a thing, obviously. Like and struggling to anchor because of that. But like you could see like his dip, his traits, like they're still there. It's just like if you're not watching him, it might not necessarily stand out.
Right.
Um, but yeah, he's like he feels like a clear fit for the Seahawks. You agree with my kind of
Yeah,
usage, right?
yeah, and especially if he is like a late second, early third round pick, because then you don't need to worry about, you play him as much as you want to as a third round pick. You're not, you don't need return on investment on third round picks or whatever. If they work, great. If they don't, whatever. It's not like burning a first round pick. So I mean, if you can only get 500 snaps out of them, but they're quality 500 snaps from a third round pick, you take that every single time out of a defensive line player. So, yeah,
There you go. So one guy who you were excited about, I think, because of the glimpses and the flashes, like very early on in the process, and
yeah,
as a tweener, was USC's Tuli Tuipulotu.
yeah. So he was, of all these guys that I watched, and we're gonna, there's a bunch of names here. I mean, there's Lucas Van Ness, Keon. Tuli, Miles Murphy, um, Adi, Zach Harrison, Mike Morris, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my initial like exposure to them, you kind of develop preliminary opinions, or maybe that's a euphemism for a preconceived notion. But anyway, my initial opinion of these guys was I like Tuli the most, and then I watched all of them in depth, and then I actually didn't like Tuli any less, but I liked Keon even more than I did. So I like ended up overwriting my pre-existing opinion. It was just like honest interpretation of what I was seeing. Like, oh wow, I actually am undoing the guy that I wanted to like a lot, because Keon is just doing things that I really liked. Again, the age thing. But anyway, with Tuli, I really like him as a pass rusher. I think he's a legit edge rusher. I think he's a good run defender on the edge. I think he's a really good interior pass rusher, better on the inside than the outside relative to other inside-outside rushers. The question, though, is that he kept dropping weight year to year. And like he's dropped weight to the point where you can no longer talk about him as a big end. He's just an edge that is big, that gives you some flexibility on pass downs. You can kick him in, but he's not defending the run from an interior gap at all in the NFL. I mean, he was recruited at 290 pounds, defensive tackle, and he has good movement skills. He has good coordination, and they just had him keep dropping weight. Then the other thing, USC has a cool scheme, but like they do so many schemed movements and actions that they don't focus technique. They're all movement.
They throw everything at a wall, and it doesn't seem to matter if it sticks or not. They just keep throwing stuff at a wall.
So the players don't play with technique when it comes to the run, except for like the guys that are like the A-gap players maybe, but like everyone else, it's just they don't really need them. They're not a technique team. They're a scheme team. They're an action team. They're a movement
Run at the
team.
ball, go fast.
So it's so hard, even like it's so hard to find out, like 260, because he's 265 now. Even if 265 can play way above the rate, which every once in a while there's a guy who can, but you're talking more like a heavy 5 really at that point. Even if you can project that, there still aren't reps to evaluate because they don't have them actually play the block. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. So like the other thing with him is he is not an athletic tester. And on tape, like there wasn't like he didn't look athletic, right? Like there's like interesting get off, there's good snap timing, but there isn't like wow or even like oh that's very good. He just looks average
super Tracy
as a guy. So that he didn't actually test because of a right hamstring. So I'm wrong on that. I just guess I'm just going off his get off then. But like the other thing with the testing that is that he has 32.25-inch arms at the combine, and then 32 3/8 inch is pro day. But that, like, if you don't know, Seattle wants 33-inch long arms ideally. Boye Mafe, you might point to as an exception, but to kind of repeat myself on that, at the Senior Bowl, he actually did have over 33-inch long arms. He also tested incredibly athletically, and had size. Tuli is like, I don't know if that's a case of the weight he had before was bad weight, but he like didn't look like he was playing with bad weight, right? And then I don't know if it's a case of, he is not even 21. He turns 21 next March. So like, is he still just learning what kind of body he has for football? But like right now, he's a big edge a big end well, not a big end, like a big like a 4-3 end who doesn't have athleticism.
Yeah.
But like some interesting.
Sorry to cut you off just really quick, but yeah, you don't walk into the combine and weigh in at 265 with any other intent but to brand yourself as an edge. You're broadcasting to teams like I'm an edge rusher now. Kick me in on pass downs if you want to, but I can rush it. And his best tape probably is him rushing tackles.
Yeah.
So it's at least as a college player, that doesn't mean he projects that way per se, although he probably does.
Yeah.
But
and like on the few plays where he didn't get moved, like it wasn't stunting around because of the defense, like he did really struggle to anchor. But again, it's because some of that is also technique, but also he is light, like anchor on the inside. But yeah, like the few times he got a straight edge rush as well, there's like nice jab steps. There's rips. There's turning the hips around by using his outside arm as well. There's some like lower body bend. There's some dipping of his upper body as well. Like,
Yeah, the
you know,
hand
there's some
quickness.
cornering moves and some shortening of the corner and pulling his hips around and stuff and through, but and like
As
working
a
angles. But
as a
it's just
pass rusher on the inside, I think he's the closest guy in this class to Michael Bennett as an interior pass rusher, not the run defense.
the
But
kind
they
of
win
fluidity of it all.
the fluidity, but like the way they use their feet to set up the tackle to
Yes,
create
yeah,
angles for themselves. And then
that's
they have the reaction time, the hand quickness, like you
yeah,
were
that's
talking
what
about.
the kind of not fluidity, how synced up it is.
Yeah.
Lower upper body, hands, legs. Yeah, I see that too. But
He's just 265 and he doesn't
so
play
we
the run that way. So
but like 6th round pick, 5th round pick, why not?
you think he's dropping to day 3?
Well, like what are we talking about here? This guy is short armed. He
Okay. You,
actually, you know
you,
what? I'm wilding out here because he
okay.
had 13.5 sacks and 22 tackles for loss
So
in
okay, we gotta
2022.
so the grapevine, right? I'll just say this. I'll give you those Seattle Overload exclusive.
Oh,
There are some
play the
agents.
siren.
There are some agents that are talking about him in the 20s.
Okay, maybe I need to
Now,
watch more then. But like
and that's not his agent. That's other agents.
I watched Tulane, where USC had a tough game. I watched Stanford and I watched UCLA, and like I loved what I saw in terms of like him as a rusher, but like all his sacks are like fake,
Brother,
mainly from what I saw. Like
you got to watch the good games. Okay, no, it's good that you watch the games because I should watch those games because it would temper me, right? Like
they're all tech stunts. What are these
you
good
need to
games?
watch.
13.5 sacks. I did not realize.
You got to
22
watch
tackles for loss.
Utah, Notre Dame, both Utah games and Notre Dame and Wazoo.
I need the all 22. The all zone.
Yeah, I see. I watched them on YouTube. That's the thing, because I didn't have all 22 on him compared to the other guys.
Ah, well, you didn't tell me you watched Just Bomb Productions.
I put it in the whole cut up. I put it in the file, man.
Okay.
We gotta have
So
beef
you're
up our
where are you taking him? You're
we
taking him
gotta
for
if they're running the old scheme, I'd take him
but they're
late
not, brother.
20s.
And this is the thing. This is the thing. This is why. What did I say? I don't know what I said, but what I think I said was
Says
for
fifth or sixth.
Seattle, I'd take him in the 5th, 6th round because he's not a scheme fit.
I'd take him at 50 if they were really wanting a pass
50?
rusher and he was the best one available. Yeah.
50?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I guess
Now,
I'll watch
that's only if the draft isn't falling well and they absolutely need a guy and he's the only like the best one left. I would take him at 50.
right.
Otherwise,
Nice caveat.
if they got a guy in front
Can't
of
even stand
him
on it.
that they really like say even if they took Mozzie Smith at 20, for example, and then say they took, then I would, if Tuli was there in the 3rd, I'd take him, but I wouldn't feel pressed to take him the 2nd round at all if you already got a guy you like. If you go get Carter, Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, or maybe even Mozzie, I would not feel compelled to take him at all. I'd rather take a guy that's more of a scheme fit. But if he's there in the 3rd round, then who cares? Sure, why not?
I like how he has short steps. Like he has
short, stuttery
little
steps.
quick steps.
That's what lets him, like, that's his game.
like a paddle boat.
Let's watch him. I've got my timestamps in the file and I have the YouTube link there.
Oh, you want the YouTube link?
If you just want to hype it up, man.
You want to hype it up? Okay, we're gonna get This is how we get the dreaded word, I think. But fine, we'll do it. I'll do it for you. This is friendship. I love this. I love this YouTube. Here we go. Right. Here's Tuli.
You were so unenthused by this.
I just obviously I have really long arms. Obviously, as a really long armed guy, anyone under 33 inches with like the
I
get off,
know.
which isn't great. I'm just like, no.
So in the scheme though, as we get some examples here of him
Yeah.
actually rushing the passer, I feel like we'd have to talk about him as, honestly, as much as it pains me to say, as an outside linebacker.
Well, this link is very choppy right now, so I don't know why that is, but yeah, an outside linebacker? Are you mad?
Go to the he doesn't fit inside. That's
He
the
doesn't
problem with
fit.
that's the problem. He doesn't fit.
This
Okay,
is gonna be
but
fun. I know he
let's
doesn't fit. That's
if
what I'm
they
telling you. That's why he's a
all
fifth
right,
round
all
pick
right,
in
all right, all right, all right,
Seattle.
all right. But if they really like, see, look at that. Look at the hand quickness to work back inside.
Playing right edge.
It's
Oh my
lightning
word.
quick. See, here's the thing
I'm gonna
though.
break my
If
computer.
under the premise that they are obsessed with him as a pass rusher,
Hold
he's
on.
265.
Let me
No,
let
he's
me
not fast, but
let me try something here.
there's a what am I saying? There's plenty of precedents for the guys on the bigger side that really aren't that good in coverage. Like we talked about already with Dunlap. Like, but let's just list them off. Joey Bosa's 270. They drop him from time to time. You got Tombo Ali, Lamar Woodley was pushing 280 toward the end of his career in Pittsburgh. They still dropped him. You got Pernell McPhee, Zadarius Smith. These guys are all 265, 275 playing outside linebacker in a 3-4. It's doable. The guy just has to be a good enough pass rusher to warrant making those schematic accommodations, like tailoring like how much you do or don't. So that's where I'm at with it.
Right. Let me try sharing it again because I think I've fixed my issue. I have so much tape. It's my computer. I think was struggling. It happens. Maybe not. I don't know why the playback's like this. Anyway,
go to 436. You got to show the people the truth.
I didn't say there wasn't truth. Like I said, I liked him off the edge. Like he has real cornering moves, and like the synced up nature is obvious. I don't know what to do with guys who aren't athletic.
I know.
And he's a junior, right? Like a true junior.
Yeah, he's young,
Hence
and
his age,
productive.
but also like he could have stayed in school, could have gone to a real defense. I don't know why it's like this.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe sharing YouTube videos is not the way to go here.
It's not the move. Okay,
If you got, let's just revert to your clips then.
My clips. This is going to be like a very long podcast. But like this guy is clearly important. I didn't know that he was this important to you.
He can rush, man. It's
I didn't
tragic.
say he couldn't rush.
He's a better edge rusher than Miles Murphy. I don't care. I'll say that.
Crikey. I mean, yeah, I don't think I disagree with that, to be fair.
I'm just very unenthused by Miles Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll talk about him in a second, but same. It's like, it'd be nice if he could corner. Now I have to find what it would be called. What's the USC code? CASC. Oh, that's why I'm not finding it. This is absolutely great podcasting here. If you didn't know, schools have codes. So the CA means California and the SC means South California. And UCLA is CALA. So occasionally when you search for your film and you put USC in, it doesn't come up with what you wanted. Right. Let's watch him against Stanford. That's a nice traditional program, although not anymore. They've gone disgusting. No longer. They're trying to run the spread. Okay, I've put here in my notes: spicy edge rush, ghost move, murdering tackle. This is Flash. Does that sound exciting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should be the title of the YouTube upload.
Ghost tackle dies with ghost.
Ghost
tackle.
10, top 10 rare ghost moves.
Yeah.
2023.
Here we go. Now the other thing is I don't know why, but I just kept thinking 47 was a player.
All right, you want a player comp though? How about Brandon Graham? How about Brandon Graham?
Oh. He's not a tackle, he's a tight end. Doesn't count.
Yeah. Still traits though.
Yeah. Well, Michael Bennett himself wasn't the best of testers.
No, sir. He was strong as hell and coordinated as hell, and he knew how to play football.
Here we go. Keep talking, Griff.
I really hate that we call it ghost moves now. It should just be a dip move, inside dip. I guess a
Yeah, I
ghost
feel
is a
like
specific type of dip where you pointedly flash hands and then try to, okay, some interior rush. See, now when I watched him, all of his interior wins are outside wins. So it's
Yep.
cool that he's got a counter move because I haven't even seen this before. A little club swim.
Yeah, look at his guard oversetting for the wide rush. Like, nope.
Three-way go, man. He's got a three-way go from the inside. That's valuable.
Does he have the middle?
Enough to
Any ball
where
rush? I don't
enough
think
to
so.
where if he drops his helmet, they'd, I don't know, two-way go at least. Two-way go.
Yeah.
We'll compromise. Two-way go.
Okay.
Look at us.
Okay.
Two Aries meeting in the middle.
It's
Okay.
actually crazy. These notes are all just like stunting. Okay, here we go.
Another reason why, I mean, he could be another 49er for that reason. Like, oh, he speaks our language.
Yeah, I mean their defense actually reminded me of like the way they run tackle and exchanges to beat zone. It reminded
For
me of
like
the
all,
49ers.
it's like all purpose, pass and run, right?
Yep.
It's annoying. I hate that
Here's
it
an
works.
interesting rep, even though it's a draw play.
So his ability to transition to get a tackle on his inside shoulder so easily.
Like, is he short in the lower half? I think he is.
Yeah, and I think it helps him though. That's also
Definitely.
why he has these short steps, but it helps him when he's engaging the tackle because he's always gets half man position really easily. That's why he goes in and out so easily too.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think he's an outside linebacker.
He's an edge rusher forced to play outside linebacker for Seattle. Also, the thing is, he might be 275 right here. So if he dropped another 10 pounds for the combine, and if he plays in the NFL, he might actually be able to be a little bit more serviceable dropping.
Hope.
Yeah, let's cope. But hey, coping keeps us in business, man.
Oh, this is some speed off the edge, showing he's playing that's the to our left here, the edge. He hits the quarterback, even though the ball even though the ball doesn't go there, but shows how he can build up speed, even though he's not. I mean, it's probably the best get off I saw from him, but there you go.
It's a shame that we didn't have Wazoo tape or Utah
Well,
tape.
don't worry. I've got some better examples. Don't worry. We're spending time on Tuli because clearly he's your dude, right? Yeah,
he was my dude when I thought he was 280, but I don't know now.
Yeah, that is a gut punch.
I still like him.
So why does that matter, Griff? Because I think that's something worth exploring.
Because he can't play, even though we were just jostling back and forth on it. I mean, he can't play outside linebacker in base. He's too big. But then he can't play three technique in bear in base or even the nickel version because he's too small. So he's a tweener, unfortunately. Again, pass downs, put him wherever, it doesn't matter. On mixed scenarios, have him play edge in the 2-4 or 4-2, whatever it ends up being. You know, he probably is a better run defender than Darrell Taylor, right? Even if, you know, like that much we can say. So he definitely raises the floor as a run defender in that. It's just, you can't take, you can't take him really with the first 50, 60 picks probably if he can only play half the snaps. But this is cool. Like this has been through contact right here.
Now,
Because one,
yep,
he gets
narrow
to his
corner.
rip. He gets to his rip, but he's able to bend the rip through without having a lot of depth on the tackle. Like there's no space between them, right? Like it's just pure transition to half man.
Yeah, no air in that at all. You can't even
Right.
see him on the screen right now. But that kind of reinforces the point of how he bends through on that.
So, and bend through contact is so hard to come by for guys that can really stress the edge, because a lot of them, they win with speed, they get depth on the tackle, and then they lose ground the longer the rep goes on. But if they get enough initial depth on the tackle, they make it work. In this case, he didn't have to get depth on him. He just laterally, with his lateral quickness, transitioned to a rip immediately with a pretty narrow rush path, and then bends that sucker in all the way at 7-8 yards. That's high quality stuff.
What? Okay. So here I've put going for the ghost move off the edge, dipping in the upper body, and he is just interesting off the edge. That just is like a positive thing. Okay, so he's bumped out here. Like, look at look. There we go. This is moves. This is the kind of synchronized fluidity that we're talking about. Even like in the upper body, the way he stays square to not expose his outside pad, like working the angle, and then that enables him to then dip
Yeah.
through.
So that's Michael Bennett rushing the edge. That's how
That does a lot in
manipulating
Mike.
sets,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
He always
manipulating
turns so
sets with
good.
feet work, and then the short choppy steps and getting the toes and hips cranked through, and like look at the hand quickness. The hands never stop. Like the reaction, like one of the reasons why Michael Bennett was so good was he didn't just have moves. He didn't just have heavy hands, but his hands were so quick and reactive and anticipatory. And that's Tuli. Like Tuli wins in tight spaces with his hands because his reaction time is insane. So
There you go. And here's an example of why he's not an outside linebacker. Along with like he's not comfortable in space. So
yeah.
um,
But Maddie, what
so
if he's 275 here?
here he is.
Imagine
Just
if
look
he's
how awkward this
265.
looks.
Yeah, not his bag. Not
Now,
his
a
bag.
lot of people would be awkward here, and it's a fake defense where he doesn't know what he's meant to do in this situation, I imagine. But
Yeah, they don't have rules. They just have
comfortable.
guidelines.
But yeah, just slightly uncomfortable. Oh, I've put next to this one clip, but this may be a clip for my coaching rather than for us. But let's see. Oh no, this is the tackle end exchange thing. Never mind.
See, the 49ers make a living out of that.
I know. I
Game
made
after
I did a
game.
tweet on it.
It makes me so mad. It's not real. Play real football.
Hey, and this is nice.
See,
Variation of the speed, the tempo.
tempo.
He knows
Look
the timing.
how sudden he is, though, man. And like
So
that's
he
good.
needs a 5-yard dash.
His 5-year dash, and then again the like composition adjusted bend, like that's a fairly tight path. Like he's not drifting way upfield. I mean, he's got more bend than Miles Murphy. And now, granted, Miles Murphy in a straight line is incredibly explosive and fast, but when it's time to change direction, like Tuli hasn't beat. So look how fast his hands are, like keeping himself clean. It's insane, dude. Well, relatively clean. The initial punch doesn't land, but then he has the strength to maintain his bend path, right? He doesn't give ground on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Here's an interesting rep of like sudden being able to turn back. Get
yeah,
that foot in the ground.
kind of a rough angle though.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the guy meant to make the play, is he? But
Right. Oh yeah, he is looping, but I don't know. If you're just doing pass rush, he might be. I mean, he's probably one of the.
playing spinner.
I think he's one of the better pure pass rushers in the draft. He has odd fits in base for the Seahawks scheme right now.
So if you're the Seahawks, you take him in like the 5th round, right?
I'd think about him in the 3rd.
Okay.
But I wouldn't take him in the first 2 rounds.
I'd be excited. If they did that, that'd be cool. Like, because it's just like how we, what does that mean for the defense, and like How are they going to use him? And he's
I
clearly
know.
ticked their character stuff. Pull rip again, getting that rip and bend through contact. Like,
If they have a game where they feel like they want to play a lot of base personnel under, then sure, have him be the 5 technique, right?
oh no, he's too small.
He could play 5 technique. You
Oh, he
kidding me?
can't. He
5
can't.
technique. It's outside shoulder of the tackle.
No, I don't think he
You don't.
can.
That's not an interior player. The 5 technique discourse is jump the shark. You're just setting an edge.
Yeah, I
That's all you're
know.
doing.
Yeah, I know, but he's got really short arms and he's
He can.
260 pounds.
He can. That's fine. 265 can play 5 technique in the NFL. They can't play 4 technique.
What? So he just looked like this, where he just is just running, like run.
See, he needs to be taught how to play football.
Okay, yeah, that might help. Yeah. Okay.
Um.
Short arm tackle as well. Look at this. Short arms, almost
Yeah.
rips his shoulder out. Yeah, great. Brilliant. Cool.
Anyway.
Well, that we spent a lot of time on Tuli Tuipulotu. And you know what? It's probably the first slight disagreement Griff and I've had, except we're agreed. I'm just framing slightly differently. In the comments, I see you're saying that Tyree Wilson doesn't have here we go, more get off than Tyree Wilson. I mean, that's just not true. And Tyree Wilson does have a slight false step and he is slow off the football, but his first step and then second and third step is absolutely rapid and he's very big. But anyway, check out our podcast on him. Okay. We don't want tape to back up Miles Murphy, do we? Should we just talk about him?
Let's just dialogue about him, yeah.
Okay, so Miles Murphy to some people is the next guy after Tyree Wilson. Can you believe that?
I mean, he's got great get off. He's 270. He's got great get off. He can convert to power as well as Van Ness can. He's got, heavy hands. The problem is that he cannot change direction for his life. He's, a lot of guys that aren't he has no agility. For a lot of guys that aren't agile, some of them still find ways to corner. It's because they understand angles and they know how to break down sets and stuff. He doesn't really have that, like the jab steps, rushing with like different angles out of his stance, the way he engages the tackle to shorten the set so that when it's time to bend, he's the earlier you can start, the less your drift will hurt you. Like if you can corner at 5 yards and say you have 3 yards of drift, you're flattening at 8 yards, as opposed to if you corner at 7 yards, you have 3 yards of drift, you're flattening at 10 yards, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't have that. Now there are guys that are challenged as him agility wise that have been really good. Take Pernell McPhee, but Pernell McPhee was a really productive pass rusher there for a while, insanely high pressure rate. Now you would never take Pernell McPhee in a redraft. You still would only take him in the second round, probably, right? Even though he was like a 5th rounder. But the point is that, like he just knows how to play football. Like Murphy, he does, but he doesn't show enough things for me where I'm like, I feel like he's going to waste his explosiveness because his agility wastes his explosiveness. Then he doesn't have the technique yet or the savvy to overcome it. And then as a run defense, he's a leaner dude. Like, yeah, he can set a really hard edge if he gets into you, but then he stops his feet a lot and then he just leans on you. If he can't snatch you, he can't play football really, like when in those contexts. So you can't reduce him, even though he's 270. Like in the old scheme, again, for context, he'd be a Leo, and he'd be a Leo who can't bend. So he'd basically be a speed to power guy.
Yeah, he really struggles to redirect with stuff as well. Like he's just so north south. He goes where he goes.
Fit, man. Just an odd fit.
And so, yeah, we should talk about the testing because, he's almost 6'5", 268 pounds. He doesn't go at the combine because of a left hamstring injury. I decided not to do the broad jump at his pro day, but that doesn't really matter because at 271 pounds with 33 and 3/4 inch long arms, He ran a 4.53 seconds 40 and a 1.59 seconds 10-yard split. These numbers from Dane Brugler's The Beast draft guide, which he does for The Athletic, which is excellent. You should check it out. Those are crazy, crazy numbers. Just explosive. And okay, a 31-inch vertical is fine, and a 4.29 seconds short shuttle, 7.21 seconds 3 cone is not the best. And maybe that is indicative of the tape as well, like what we're saying about lacking the redirection and just being a bit stiff. He doesn't really have many moves either, right? Like it's just the second effort, and there's like raw power, but there isn't necessarily like it's just running.
There is a good, it's a good sign though that he can win with power with like an inside stab move, because
Yes,
that means his outside arm is free, and then you can, in theory, he can develop knockdown moves with his outside arm. He just doesn't use them a lot, which is odd. Like he can sustain a path with his rip because he's so strong, but again, the natural bend, he's still going to drift a little bit. And I just don't see him winning the corner often enough. But in the spirit of like, height, weight, speed, and its defensive line, do you just bet on those things? I get it. I would,
yeah,
but I just don't know if I get it for the Seahawks, because again, like you can't drop him, and he's not an interior player. So he's kind of a no man's land.
Some of his inconsistencies that we're speaking about, and just to add to that, like, there's just some really bad plays. Like, I'm not sure. Like, why is that an issue? Like, is that like a not being focused thing? Is that like a still learning football thing? Is that like an effort thing? Like, I don't understand how he's, it's just a complete spectrum.
Well, you could argue that Clemson defensive line was probably not the best coached SEC defensive line.
Even though they don't, well, they're definitely not in the SEC.
I mean, not SEC, ACC, but you know what I mean. The better teams, sorry. They're like an honorary SEC team, but
Sure.
like a lot of them don't really seem to know what's going on a lot of the time. Like same with Brazil.
Okay, so Griff, what we should mention here is, I can't believe I didn't mention this before. Tuli had a 13% pressure rate per SIS. Keon White had a 13% pressure rate per SIS. Miles Murphy had a 10% pressure rate.
Yep.
So
because he doesn't have the skills to unlock all of his traits, or he doesn't have the skills to overcome his poor traits, which ends up wasting his good traits.
But he's another case of, he turned 21 this past March. Can you unlock it? He's that traitsy type, which again we've seen the NFL values. And so, is he a first round pick on tape? No, but is he a first round pick based on the flashes and then the testing? And the NFL loves stuff like former 5-star high school recruit. Then probably yeah, like he probably is a first round pick. But like in terms of fit on Seattle, it's just not there. In terms of as far as what we think the defense is going to be, and we should also protect ourselves with Seattle's defense. Might be like we don't really. The vision is not clear right now. Like we know what tree Clint Hurts learned from. We know what Pete Carroll said about trying to blend things, but like the vision in terms of the rostering and like and also like what they think is the right course of action based on how they've regressed schematically last year is very uncertain, like very, very uncertain. And so in terms of the player types, as much as we sort of can talk about what system we think they're running, we don't actually know. And that's why this draft is really important. And that's why the tweeners are important, because the type of tweener that they do pick, if they decide to go that route, will be very illustrative, like how the Draymond Jones signing kind of gave us an idea. I think it will help us really kind of grasp what the vision is, or hopefully, because otherwise we'll go insane. That would not be good, right. or more insane. So, finally, well, not finally, but the final few names. First of all, there is the testing god. Northwestern's Adetomiwa Adebayor. He is an absolute athletic, unicorn,
Marvel.
like unbelievable, like incredible athletic gifts. He ran, I can't believe that. He ran a 4:49 seconds 40-yard dash with at 282 pounds. Basically, he's 6'1.5", 33 and 7/8 of an inch long arms. That 4:49 seconds 40 featured a 1.55 seconds 10-yard split, and then also a crazy 37.5-inch vertical, 10 foot 5-inch broad. And his pro day, by the way, he had a 7.13 seconds 3-cone and 4.26 seconds short shuttle, which at 282 pounds is impressive as hell. So
Yeah.
he testing wise is crazy. At the Senior Bowl, he showed some exciting, like raw, like he just looks like a lit firework, like ready to explode. There's so much. It's clear he's athletic as hell. Like
And
before he tested, I was saying at the Senior Bowl, we said about heavy hands, but like that power he had when he was the 3 tech and he ends up on the center in the rush spacing and he just bullies him, knocks the center back. Like there's real stuff there. And the one-on-ones where he's just going at someone, you're like, this guy looks like incredibly twitched up and just wow, like this.
Yeah.
If this can be harnessed.
And he's high effort too, like high motor, high effort, and traits and effort can pan out often. At least be a viable player.
The problem is that effort and those traits did not show up on the film I watched. The Wisconsin game is terrifying. Like this guy tested generationally. Yeah, he had a Senior Bowl where he flashed some of his things. The fact that he's not a consensus first round pick, I think, tells you everything you need to know about how the league views this guy. How the media's seeing him as well. Like he's not even he's not even like
play.
He just doesn't know how to play football. Like
he doesn't know how to play yet.
Against Wisconsin, he is getting stuck on blocks. He's like not, he's getting the initial strike on guys, but then the second and third steps aren't doing anything. Like it's like he doesn't. It looks as though he doesn't know how. He doesn't know to get off the block. Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
The whole thing's just odd.
In theory, like he's supposed to be a guy that can give you some like edge rush from a 5 technique and then play 4 and 4-eye in theory. But then that's if he develops. But then like you've got Baltimore working him out as a oversized outside linebacker, which they always like those guys. But clearly the theory there is they're saying they're punting on the they're punting on the idea of him being like a routine interior block engager, a guy that deconstructs blocking schemes. They're just saying you're going to be an edge setter and a power rusher on the outside in the same vein as Zadarius Smith was, Pernell McPhee, Matt Judon.
Because what does that let you do? Get off the football, play outside in, go run through someone,
and
play hard and fast.
That's channeling the traits, right?
You can't do that as a defensive tackle. Like there's more going on. You're closer. You can't build up speed. And there's more to think about.
And him at 280, Baltimore probably has him drop weight a little bit, right? Probably get to 270. He's totally Pandora's box right now. He'd be a fun draft pick in the 3rd round, but I'm not taking him in the 1st or 2nd. I'm not. To me, he's a flyer. Again, like I think he plays with high effort. It's just he just doesn't know how to play. So, that's indicative of like he wants to be good. He just
and like from all accounts as well, like okay, he wants to be good. But like Northwestern is generally regarded as a very well coached defense. Like they've looked kind of not last year, but the year before they were like overperforming their talent level. Like they seem to have a good setup from what we know from the outside. So if he hasn't got it there, and then like is he ever going to get? You have questions about the coachability. Like he is a 4-year senior. He is 22 years old. Griff.
What just happened?
Oh, I might be reading the American date wrong. Oh, that would be upsetting.
What?
I think he's an Aries.
Oh,
does that change anything for you?
No. Uh, Northwestern has 4 combined wins in the last 24 months.
Yeah, I mean, they were good. Like when I said they were good, like,
Yeah, they were
but
good 3 years ago.
it's 3 years
Um,
ago. Yeah, there you go.
right now he's in no man's land position wise. He doesn't have any tape to hang his hat on. Like not even like he's an idea. He's a very exciting idea. An idea I would welcome the 3rd round, no earlier. Ideally 4th round.
Yeah,
You know,
like
he's not.
and he has some sacks where he's just quicker and bigger and like in Nebraska, like I don't know what they were doing. The quarterback drifting back in the pocket, like really poor offensive line. But like he went off in that game. It's just like watch Wisconsin, which is an NFL, you know, NFL offensive line production line. But like that's worrying stuff. Yeah, I mean 3rd round maybe. I'm not sure Seattle can afford that type of luxury. Um, like they need players. They really need players in that position. So if you're in the chat, given that Griffin has left me, feel free to leave your comments. This has been an absolute bumper tweener thing. Tells you how much Griffin likes these tweener players. So I saw a comment from Nate D saying about Derek Hall. He is not what we'd consider a tweener. He is more of like an outside linebacker type. We covered him on the outside linebacker show briefly. We talked about Derek Hall. He's kind of like uh, a kind of hard charging, physical guy, gets after it. There's some speed off the edge, but he's so linear and he kind of looks stiff. Since that point, and I don't know like how much of a fit he is from like a Seattle type perspective. Like maybe they think about him in the like 4th or 5th round, but like to me, it's telling that he didn't do the agility drills at the combine. He did them at his pro day, 7.23 seconds 3 cone, 4.20 seconds short shuttle. Um, but yeah, he can't really threaten the edge. I didn't see much. Like he's very good at powering through guys. Uh, but like it doesn't feel Seattle-y that like he rarely wins through the back arc of the pocket. Like he's very kind of linear. So yeah, I'm not sure he's that good a fit for Seattle. We also have a question from the Axiomatician, which is. Should we put the name out there? Are we good to put
Yeah,
the name out
Jesse.
there?
That's our
Jesse,
guy,
there we go.
Jesse.
Okay, Griff's outed you, Jesse, as the Axiomatician. There you go. Would you and Matty
The
offer an
gulag.
opinion? Very
Gulag.
good, very good, very good support to the podcast, and yeah, top lads. Would you and Matty offer an opinion on whether you collectively, and if you were the Seahawks, would exchange the Seahawks' first 5 picks for the top 3 defensive linemen in the draft of your choice? So, like defensive tackle, some kind of tech, and outside linebacker. That is a
Like as a
very
fun,
interesting question.
as a fun thought experiment.
So
Yeah, I
the
think I
first
would.
5. So who are the top 3 defensive linemen in the draft?
Carter, Anderson, Wilson, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pretty good consensus there.
Oof.
Like,
That would be
would you
nice.
trade all 5? I mean, yeah, I would, because it's 1 in the hand versus 2 in the bush type concept there. Like, just take the guys that you really, really like, and you have no concern over their availability. Just take them.
Right, like
Who
there's no
cares?
concerns with Jalen Carter. You're right.
As a player, for the thought
Ah,
experiment, right?
my apologies. That was facetious. So that would mean Seattle giving up, pick 5 overall, pick 20 overall, pick 37 overall, pick 52 overall, and then pick 83 overall, leaving them with
S-
a 4th round pick 123, a 5th round pick 151, a 5th round pick 154, a
So
6th
you
round pick
completely
198, and a 7th round pick 237. So you basically punt on your top offensive line. Like the centers are probably all
right.
started gone. Uh,
The receiver, tight
you're
end.
getting the role. I mean, it's just like any draft. You're getting the role players. Although Seattle's been pretty good in day 3 anyway when it comes to certain positions as well. So
But if you could airdrop in Jalen Carter and Will Anderson into this defense, I mean, both of them, that's monstrous.
Are you sure you don't want to put Tuli up instead of Jalen?
No, Maddie, play nice.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. That was mean.
But what gives me the most pause is skipping on the chance of Michael Mayer, who is probably, I don't know, my second or third favorite player in the entire draft.
I mean the guys that we're like, I really like Tyree Wilson. Like, I really like
Yeah,
what I saw.
I like Tyree, so sure, why not?
So it's like a pretty crazy thing to do and not very balanced, but also like I do it in a. I mean, it's so irresponsible, but like the D line's bad right now. Think
You need
about the
bodies,
needs.
man.
We need some bodies. Yeah. Okay. Griff, to wrap up, Mike Morris.
So he did not. I don't think he tested well. He was
What
listed
school
at
is he from?
Michigan. He was listed at 290, but I think he came to the combine at like just under 270. He looks
275.
okay. That's a good way for him because he looked
Oh,
way bigger. He looked big on tape. So he's a guy that has a dimension of athleticism that you cannot measure at a combine. Well, maybe with the drills, but it's subjective. It's unquantifiable. You just have to see it. He could coordination and play strength is real.
seeing is believing.
He actually can move really well on the outside. He's like a guy that's 250 that put on 30 pounds and is just slower, but the strength scaled up accordingly. The thing though is that he's not an inside player, so he is, for Seattle's purposes, a tweener because you're not going to drop him. But I think he can actually rush the passer. I think it's really impressive, like 275 moving like that. Not a lot of guys do. It's possible he was even heavier than that at Michigan and he just cut weight for the combine. So he's probably out of Seattle's range. If he's there in the 4th or 5th round, that would be really fun. I'd be sure, like, why not? Kind of the same deal with Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison knows how to rush the passer. He's just not very traitsy. I mean, he's long, but he's not like explosive. Kind of like Tyreek Smith, really skilled last year when they drafted him, although he's more of an outside linebacker body type. He's just not explosive. He's agile, but so you're getting into like skilled guys with some interesting traits, but not enough to propel them into day 2, probably. And again, fit wise, tweener. Now, day 3, you don't care if they only play 400, 500 snaps, right? So yeah, he absolutely beefs you up for the 2, 4, 5 stuff. And then on pass downs, maybe he's a guy that can flex inside. But yeah, check out Mike Morris. He's intriguing. He was a guy that was spoken of really highly, and then people kind of forgot about him. Like not like draft Twitter, so to speak, or draft coverage, but just the college football world did. And then he kind of just subsided. And I thought, well, maybe that's because he's really not that good. One of those guys who's a good college player, but
Well,
not really a good prospect. And then I
he
watched him, like, he's actually much better than I thought he was.
yeah, he also missed the final 2 games of last season with a high right ankle sprain. So like that kind of, it lessens the momentum. But he still had 7.5 sacks in 2022, like 11 tackles for loss. So
Yeah.
over 12 games. So that's interesting. Just yeah, I mean, at least he had 33.5-inch long arms, but like a 4.95 seconds 40 and a 1.64 10-yard split, a 28.5-inch vert and a 9'2" broad is not the best, as you've said. So
No.
I mean, at least that 10-yard split is 1.64 seconds.
So he's
Not
truly just,
terrible.
he's a guy that is not very twitchy, who is just coordinated. Like, again, put a basketball in his hand. He knows how to move around.
There you go. He was his father was an offensive guard at Florida State, which is exactly why Dane Brugler's draft guide is interesting, because you get little interesting nuggets like that.
It's like, imagine an NBA player who turns 45 years old. Like, yeah, like the quickness is gone, the explosiveness is gone, but the coordination doesn't
Wow.
go away. No. The point is the coordination doesn't go away. You see him handle the ball, like all the movement coordination, fluidity is there. It's just moving slower.
Right. And
But
they could play in the G League or the XFL.
But like that's a dimension of on the football field where that still matters. Like think Jonathan Allen, his combine was horrible, but on tape he looks athletic. It's like, how is that possible? It's because he's strong and coordinated, and that matters. Like the subtlety
He was
of movement.
unbelievable tape-wise. I remember that combine that everyone.
People took Solly Thomas over him, or had Solly Thomas over him because they were saying Allen doesn't hit thresholds for athleticism.
Yep.
And Solomon Thomas is the most explosive thing we've seen since Aaron Donald. And look what happened. Jonathan Allen is one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and Solomon Thomas can barely stay on the team right now. Not for lack of effort. Thomas is a very high effort player, right? But it's just Thomas isn't coordinated. And Jonathan Allen was. So I don't know. There's some things there with Morris, but he's an edge. He's just a big edge. He's not an interior guy, so he's not really versatile. He's just a bigger edge. So again, kind of an odd fit, him and Zach Harrison.
Yeah, and Allen had that thing of he was like a tweenery, like in terms of his weight, right? But like he then had that just strength to be able to hold up. Like a 3-4 end. Anyway. So that's it. We're done. We've done tweeners. If we've missed out names, let us know. If we've missed out names also, that might be because we're going to cover them in the interior defensive line episode, which will land at some point. That will be defensive tackles. So, like your Carl Brooks and your other names here, they will be covered in that. Yeah, that's us done. Drift, have you got anything to add? We touched on Harrison.
Not really.
No, there you go. Thank you everyone for listening. Who's the closest to Michael Bennett of all these tweeners asked to reflect the sun? Great question. Michael Bennett, often a unicorn, referred to as unicorn by Griff.
Yeah, usage-wise, probably Keon White in terms of where you can play him and win. Actual style, like as a pass rusher, probably Tuli. As a run defender, I don't know, man.
Keon,
yeah.
He doesn't. He's too heavy though.
I mean, okay. The thing about Bennett though is that he was not 275. He was like 280, 285. That was said on multiple broadcasts. Like he was not his listed weight.
Well, they're just weighing him. Collinsworth's just getting out the scales.
Well, what they put on the website is way different than what's going on inside the building.
Yeah, he slimmed down for the. He's probably slimmed down for testing. Didn't test that well anyway. And then probably, was like, well, I'm being used like this. I need to add some, like, it suited his game to add a bit more weight.
I'm pretty sure for the Patriots Super Bowl, they were like Michael Bennett, who Pete Carroll said is all of 285 pounds. Like he's way up.
So he was 280.
He was. I'll take 280. Yeah, I mean that's a 280, and he was squatty too, so he was dense, right? He was, even though he had long arms, but body types are different.
But
Keon doesn't play that low, but still. No.
And he doesn't have that quickness in short areas.
Right.
But
that's the thing with Tuli though. Like if he was coached right and went to the right school for those purposes, he should have been more. He actually played
to real defense.
He actually played some 4i his freshman year when he came in. He was way heavier and he seemed okay, but again, it was like not really. It wasn't really helpful data, you could say.
Alex Grinch. Okay. So basically, reflect the sun. That's a good answer from us, from Griff. But yeah, getting close to Michael Bennett is tough.
The Grinch who stole defense.
And Seattle's tried to get close to Michael Bennett, and they're obsessed with it. And they like mention how Draymond Jones has aspects to his game like that, and I see
Right.
that, but it's still not Michael Bennett.
To that point, they're chasing a player that doesn't exist. Draymond Jones is the closest they can get, and he's a good player, but he's not Michael Bennett. That's fine. The only guy that is even close to him is Jonathan Allen, really, in the league, like stylistically wise, not like overall ability, but style wise, usage wise, and height, weight. It's John Allen. Like that skill set is so hard to find.
That's super interesting, Griff. Do you want to know what I wrote in 2017 for Inside the Pylon?
You comped him to Michael Bennett?
No, because comps I disagree with vehemently.
Like
However,
philosophically,
I
respect
said
that.
this is not to say that Allen is doomed to fail in the NFL, talking about his combine. Michael Bennett is another player who disappointed the combine, and it saw him go undrafted. Like Allen, Bennett had an inside-out rusher to him. Allen
There
must
you go.
find a way to be successful in the league, be it lighter or heavier. He'll have to lean on his technique.
And he did gain weight, didn't he?
He did.
So like he's more like 300 now. So it kind of undoes my point, but
yeah, and again, but that's like Bennett did. Like these guys slim down. Like maybe that's your hope for Tuli, that he adds weight again.
Right.
Because he slimmed down for the testing and proved to everyone that he was just unathletic, like testing wise. But you can't measure heart or short area quickness and reactiveness and in synchronization, fluidity, body control yet, really. Okay, everyone like the video. We've gone 2 hours, 1 minute, 24, 5, 6 seconds. Subscribe
chat, go ahead,
channel.
put your favorite Seattle Overload areas in the chat.
Yeah.
And we'll address it in the next podcast.
Yep. The options are, so if the date is written, Griff, 03, 04, whatever, and then the year, is that March or April?
We do month first over here.
Always.
Yeah. You guys do day first, don't you?
Oh no, I've been saying people are turning something in March and it's in January. Everyone's going to come for me. The receipts. Oh, damn it. Ah, well.
That's funny.
It's 5 a.m. Like, relax. Okay. Thank you, everyone. How many? Oh, yeah. Follow the Twitter at Seattle Overload. 5-star reviews. We appreciate you. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Oh, let me do this. Let me do this. It's going to be amazing.